Hello, my name is Elizabeth Hoover and I am an associate teaching professor in the Department of Music. And I'm so happy to be joined by my colleague and friend, Dr. Erin, who is assistant professor of bassoon in our department. Hi, Erin. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the courses you teach at Miami?
Sure. So I began at Miami in 2019, as you said, as assistant professor of bassoon. What that means is that I teach applied music. I teach the bassoon students in the studio, group teaching, individual lessons. We mostly study Western music, traditional things, reading notation off the page, like the Western ideas of music. But I also teach a large global Miami playing course called MUS 185. It's essentially a survey of world music cultures. And in that course, it's difficult because I have usually over 100 students, and I have majors and non-majors. So it's a little hard to find the middle path between those who are coming in with a lot of knowledge and those who know maybe very little about music. And the challenges in that are some students get really hung up on things like vocabulary. Some students get really hung up on like thinking they have to speak in an expert way. And what I thought is how to take a bunch of students in a large space and create a more intimate atmosphere with them. So I broke everyone up into cohorts of six students. And the way I designed the cohorts was going on to the photo roster and looking at everyone's major. And I divided these majors up into groups in very general ways, like science and math oriented groups, or groups that deal with cultures, the groups that deal with artistic disciplines, just to get a rough breakdown of different types of students. So then I picked one from each of the 6 categories that I designed, and I built these cohorts that way. And then what I thought I would do was take role play. So I would use a role like the historian or a role like the politician, who would be more like the leader of the group. And I would assign these roles to them. That way, each student feels like, well, maybe I'm not an expert in music, but I do know something about a culture that I could identify based on my own interest in my own major.
Right. I like that you're bringing in their past experiences and prior knowledge into the classroom. Can you speak a little bit about how this operated in asynchronous and synchronous modalities since you were a hybrid course?
Yeah, so I took this very large class and I broke them into a Tuesday, Thursday class. So I met half the students on Tuesday, not in person, in Zoom, I suppose. And then the other group would work asynchronously through some Canvas modules. That allowed me to really get into each of the breakout rooms and meet each cohort individually and work with them about specific questions that they had. And then the asynchronous, they would, watch videos and do more assignments and that kind of thing, self-reflection, and take time to write on their own.
And then did they maintain the same role throughout the entire semester, or were they able to take on other expert roles as they developed with you through the course?
Yeah, I allowed them to change their role every unit, and we had 4 units. And so each it was usually 3 or 4 weeks, so then we would switch a unit, and those units would have topics like inclusion, and or they would have a topic like colonization, and something that we could thread throughout a lot of different world cultures. I decided to do a podcast project in which, even though the students are changing the roles, they're staying within the same cohort the entire semester. They would produce a podcast with 4 episodes, each episode correlating to one of our topics. And they would essentially produce a 30-minute podcast as a group. And because they're kind of assuming these roles, they're essentially teaching each other. And we did really fun things in there. We had like a call-in, we had like tweets, we had shout-outs, some did advertisements, and they did cover art, and they did, just really highly creative stuff. And in the end, I kind of made a game of it. I did like something called Podcomp, which is a podcast competition, and that was the last episode. They had to upload, all their work, and then the students had kind of a student choice thing. And every night we had like the pool shrunk until we got a winner, and so we did a lot of fun activities that way.
Excellent. So it's project-based learning that is replacing assessment like a formal exam. Is that correct?
Right. We didn't do exams. I didn't think it was helpful for them to list off all of the instruments in the Japanese court music when we could be talking about, something much more like inclusivity or exclusivity in court music. It seems much more interesting because then I can use it in many different cultures.
And collaborative so that they're maintaining social presence in this virtual online space. So how did you gauge the student perception of such a project or the group roles as they made their way through your course?
I did exit tickets every week, and these exit tickets included some questions that stayed the same and some questions that changed. This allowed me to gauge in real time how students were experiencing the course, what they were learning, what they weren't learning, and or at least some insight into some things I could change to improve their experience in the classroom. Those exit tickets not only helped me become a better teacher, but I think it also allowed the students to reflect on the work that they themselves were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that this formative assessment is essential to gauge how the students are doing in the course throughout a semester.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share about Music 185?
No, I mean, I just think that this idea of having them work together in smaller cohort groups, I mean, this is one benefit of a COVID style thing is being able to, okay, import it online and now how can I make intimate spaces? So I'm really happy with the outcome of that class.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your pedagogical innovation, and I look forward to talking with you some more at a later date. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Mhm.